and welcome to a reading vlog. My name is Beck and I am excited because this is my first week of maternity leave and I thought that I would try and read some books before I give birth and go to the hospital. So that is really the aim for this week. I've got a bunch of, admin last minute wrapping things up as well, like packing hospital bags, doing loads of washing, setting up the house a little bit, any admin stuff that I need to connect the dots with before I go into labour. So I've got a to-do list, but I've done a lot this morning and it's actually almost lunchtime. So I'll probably go and scoff some lunch after I've done this update, but I wanted to sit down and tell you what I'm starting the week with in terms of reading. And one of those is The Fable for the End of the World, which is an audiobook that I've borrowed from my library. And it's almost Hunger Games in essence, in the sense that there is a trial or a gauntlet and characters are volunteered to the gauntlet by people that they know. And usually it's because of a debt. But in this case, our main character has been sent to this gauntlet because her mother hates her. Her mother has debt and a lot of imagined illness, and she's just sent her daughter up to be volunteered and doesn't really care. And that's like a guarantee that her daughter's going to die and she just doesn't care. So this is the character now that we are following, and she is a taxidermist, and it's almost in a world where there is like a fantastical setting because all of the creatures in the world have been morphed or modified, and so they're not representative of actual animals that we would recognize. They're combinations of animals, so that's why her taxidermy job is so revered and people pay a lot of money for taxidermy because they're preserving the wildlife as it used to be. There's also technology intertwined with this story in the sense that there is live stream, people have a tablet and you can log on and do different things. So it's electronic, it's got like fantastical animals and then this trial. And we also follow another woman as well, so not just our character who got nominated for the gauntlet, we follow another woman who is in her like late teens. I think she's 17, 18, and she is genetically modified to fight in the trials and to take out people who get nominated into the trials. So we're getting both sides of a coin effectively, of someone who is nominated with no experience and somebody who is forced into doing this as a job, and every time that she is successful her memory is wiped and she's noticed that her mentor is lying to her. So she's obviously like not okay with doing this job anymore. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this develops, because in the synopsis it suggested that it was like a female-female romance, or that's what it will become. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens, and I'm 30% into this one. So I've not got too long left. I've got a couple of hours to go. So hopefully I can listen to that while I'm doing just different chores around the house. And physically, I do plan to sit my butt on the couch this week, and I want to read Crimson Road by Angela Slatter. And this one also has a character who survived a trial, ironically, but it's like a series of fighting trials that her father has forced her into doing, and that has then trained her up for the present day. And I think he is murdered, and then she has to escape after assassins come for her as well. So I'm looking forward to trying this because I know that I like her writing style. And like a week or two ago, I read the first page of this and I thought, oh, I'm gonna like this, which is great because I've put down so many books lately and I just want to win. So going with an author I've read from before with a writing style that I hope to like is a strong contender for something I will enjoy. And I also borrowed another audiobook on Libby with the hope that I'll finish the one I'm currently reading, and then I've got a physical book on my to be read cart as well that I would like to read after this. So I'm very much trying to amp up my reading while I can and while I can make time to do it. So fingers crossed, and I will take you along this journey with me this week. Lunch is consumed, washing is on, and I'm about to settle and read for a bit. Honestly, could I get any more pillows? I've now read about 3 chapters of this book, and let me just say it is a relief to know that nothing is wrong with me and this has actual decent writing. Because it feels like I've put a lot of books down lately just because I haven't liked the writing style, but this is sticking and I don't know what my rating will be for it yet. Usually I can get an inkling at the beginning of a book, but this is only like 28 pages in, so it's way too early still. But I just heard the washing ding, so I need to get up and hang that out, and I'll return to reading this later. And I've also got a walk with Dave going on soon, so we'll go for a late lunchtime walk. And then I realised that I need to go and pick up some stuff
as well that I've put on order, and I don't have any other days that would suit to get it except for today. So this is being paused for a little bit, but that is okay. I promise, Crimson Road, I will come back to you. I was aiming to stay in my pajamas all day, but no, I've changed so that I can walk and return some manga and then pick up some baby seats, which have just come in. So my slouchy day at home in my pajamas has turned into getting dressed and running errands instead. I guess that's life, right?
So it's the next day. I figured I owed you an update about this one now that I have read a whopping amount of 102 pages, and I say that without sarcasm. It's almost like work holds you back, right? So I got to sit on the couch and read this yesterday, and I'm actually liking the way it's setting everything up. Violet, the main character, whose father seemed to have passed away from an illness rather than have been murdered, he was forcing her to learn all these combat skills and this trial fighting because in his mind he has a mission for her to go to this particular place and save her brother. But she's like, my brother was stillborn. She saw it happen. So now I'm like, this is intriguing. This character also seems to have a lot of political connections, but they are very much dictated by her father from his legal will that he left behind. So I'm also like, I don't really understand the magic or the world building yet, but it also is very early on and we haven't ventured far enough out for her to do that. Like, she has been denying his last request because she doesn't like her father and is glad that he's dead so that she doesn't have to continue being the tool that he has shaped her to be. In addition to that, it's also set up not only Violet, the main character, but her housekeeper, also a street urchin, and then a ship master as well. All of them women, which is nice to see, but it seems like with this setting up of side characters and the setting feeling like not only Victorian era England, but also think Peaky Blinders, it's like a mishmash of those two. And she talks very proper, but you can get the undertone very clearly. And I'm liking the setup of the characters. I'm liking the beginnings of the murders in this world, the assassination attempts, starting to bring in the magic in from the sidelines. I think this is going to lead up to an excellent quest, and I was actually wondering if it was part of a series or a standalone. I think it's a standalone, but I'll have to go and check. But either way, I'm enjoying this one. At the moment, I'd sit on a 3.5 to 4 stars depending on how it continues going, but I'm liking it. And I've also read like almost 70% of that audiobook, the Fable one. And I like that one too, but it's probably a 3.5, 3 stars. And I think that's because the characters are 17 and I don't usually read characters that are that young anymore. So I like the story. I think it's actually a quite convincing telling of a dystopian sci-fi and regressed world. And I really like it. So we've also got these characters that eat the mutated meat of the creatures that exist in this world. And if you eat those, you deteriorate yourself. And they're called Wens, and they are starving for human flesh. And I thought, oh, that's a nice call out to a Wendigo. I like seeing Wendigo lore in books, and I feel like I've only ever seen it in, I think, season 1 of Supernatural, which is a massive throwback. They're always fascinating, Wendigos, and terrifying at the same time. So seeing them in this was really cool, and I'm pretty sure I'll finish this book fairly quickly. The next one I've got on my audio queued up is Voyage of the Damned, which is a murder mystery contained to a ship that is on the way to a magical castle or location, and all of the characters on board are representatives or tributes for, I don't know, some like high up position. It's not a trial, I don't think, it's for something else, and the character that we're following is a bit like underdoggy and doesn't have many prospects or magic and has to try and figure out who is dying on this ship and why, because people keep doing it and he doesn't want to die. So I'm looking forward to trying that and seeing if the style and tone suit what I like, because if it's a good pirate story, I like it. What else do I really need to tell you? I've cleaned a load of baby stuff and there is somehow still more to go. So I'm going to be doing that today, I think. And I've also got a haircut later. So hopefully some of this mop disappears. Haircut acquired. They straightened it too. I don't know why. It feels like I'm bald on the top. Maybe it's just my perception. I don't know. Anyway, I have been reading and I've read 60 more pages of this book, which we'll pretend wasn't upside down. And I'm still liking what I'm reading, and it's had more magic introduced in the sense that there are magical creatures that have kind of perforated the story at the edges in different interactions, and I like that kind of touch of magic, I guess. It's not heavy-handed, but it's not light on enough to make me still wonder what's going on, so I quite like the balance. Other than that, I haven't finished my audiobook yet. I haven't listened to any more. I did plan on listening to it while I was folding washing, but then I just got into a zone of focus and I did a whole bunch of stuff without even putting an audiobook on, and then I looked up and went, oh, whoopsie daisy. So tomorrow I'll do hopefully some more audiobook listening, but tomorrow is also the 25th of June, which doesn't really matter, but it matters in the sense to me that I'm potentially filming my wrap up for June then. So this book and then whatever I'm listening to on audiobook will just be covered off in this vlog rather than in that wrap up, I guess. Hello, I have just been doing a bit of editing for this vlog and I realised I owed you an update because I didn't film it all yesterday. So I have just finished my audiobook Fable for the End of the World, and while I liked it generally, I don't know why I continued reading it because it's probably a low 3 stars. I really should have DNF'd this and cut my losses and then started something else that I really enjoyed. But instead I powered through and finished it because I have been having so many false starts and DNFs, and I finally just wanted to get to a round number. So that means I have now read 40 books this year, and I wanted to get as close to 50 as I could before I have our baby. Within 10 is pretty good, given that that's a whole yearly goal and I've still got months of the year to go. I just don't know what my reading is going to look like after baby. So I'm glad I finished it, but at what cost? I think the ending was fairly convincing. I liked the world building. I was actually surprised the world building was pretty decent and the characterization was fine. I was just not emotionally invested, and that's really the reason that I gave it a low 3 stars. I just didn't really care about it. The twists and the emotional turmoil in the story were just like, oh yeah, okay, rather than me being super emotionally invested. So that's why, again, I gave it a 3. And then I was like, oh, I should probably do an update, but also I haven't finished this yet, even though I've been reading it. And I looked to see how many pages I have left, and I've only got 150. And I thought, okay, well, it's not a super duper long book, right? Surely I can do this in the rest of today because it's really rainy and gloomy outside. It's the perfect day to sit on the couch and read. And while I do have a few little tasks to do, surely they're not going to take me all day. Like, I can sit and get a chunk of this read, if not finished today. So that is my goal, because I would really like to start my other book before this vlog is due to end, and I'm running out of time. So I need to finish this before I can do that. Also, I realized that for almost every single clip, maybe every clip in this vlog, I've been wearing this same jumper. It's just comfortable, okay? I promise I've been changing the other clothes that I'm wearing and I just put this on the top. Don't judge me. I'm shocked because I'm actually enjoying a book. Actually, I was sitting and supposed to be reading this book, but instead I put my audiobook on, a new one, and vacuumed the house. And then I was supposed to sit down and read this after doing that, but I didn't want to stop listening to the audiobook, which is why I'm shocked, because it is A Voyage of the Damned, and I thought I'd listen to the start of it and then not be that interested. It was one that I wanted to just taste test before I update it again, and I'm really shocked that I'm really enjoying it. I really like the tone of Ganymedes, who is the main character. He's 22 and of the fish province, and in terms of society, he's like the lowest rung. So the premise for this book is kind of similar to how I described it before, but now I can actually get a bit more specific. So it's about the 12 provinces, and each province has a blessing from the dragon god, and this blessing is passed down to their blood heir. However, before the heir can attain the blessing properly, they have to go on this 11 or 12-day voyage by boat to this sacred mountain where they then pledge to the god, and that's when they get their blessing. And our main character Ganymedes, on behalf of his father, has been lying this entire time and saying that he doesn't have a blessing, because usually it passes to the firstborn child or one of the children of the provinces, the heirs, but his father slept around, so there are a lot of bastard offspring that the blessing could have gone to instead, even though the fish province only had the one heir, which is Ganymedes. So now he's been lying on behalf of his father this whole time, and nobody knows the truth, and he's got to keep it that way, even though he's going to go on this voyage as a fake blessed person to pledge and then rule the kingdom after. Then while they are on this voyage, it's called Voyage of the Damned because one of the people on the voyage who is going to become the next empress, she gets killed. And now Ganymedes is like, well, I was with her like 30 minutes before she died and she didn't seem like she was going to take her own life. It's definitely a murder. And then another character gets killed as well, and it's after his death that everyone kind of comes together and tells where they were. And one of the characters, Ganymedes, realizes is lying about his whereabouts because he said that he was walking along a particular area and that's where Ganymedes was because he saved someone from going overboard and that person wasn't there. So he was lying. And I'm looking forward to how this mystery is going to play out because it's an unexpected enjoyment book for me, and I think that's down also to the character of Ganymedes. He's written very tongue-in-cheek in tone, and sometimes that can get annoying if it's overdone, but it feels like this is the perfect amount of like properly cooked because he does it well enough, and sometimes it's an internal monologue and he doesn't always blurt it out. So you kind of get that sense of the humor without it always being present to tarnish conversations when it might not be well placed in that conversation. So it feels balanced that way. There is also someone from the Grasshopper province and she has a magic that can turn herself invisible, and she's like 6 years old, and at the beginning of the story you can't leave on this ship that is blessed by the Empress until every blessed person or blessed person's heir is on board. And she was running around being invisible and Ganymedes gained her trust. So now they are hard and fast friends, and now they're both trying to solve this murder even though she's 6 and Ganymedes is 22. So I'm like, this is a great setup to a story. I'm 23% in and I can see myself doing pretty well to finish this because it just means sitting down and listening to it or going for a walk and listening to it. So that is really easy for me to do. In terms of this book though, I am enjoying it, but it's probably a 3.5 stars. And I think that's down to the fact that some of the plot things and how they've run into each other has been a bit convenient in the sense that there's a lot of characters that are out to get this main character, Violet, but she keeps running into people who have her back or don't necessarily mean her harm and they take her in and do her favors. So it's a little bit like, well, she's in danger, but is she though? And I looked it up and it doesn't seem to have a sequel written anywhere or projected anywhere, so I think it's all self-contained, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this concludes and what is going on because it involves also part of the world building called leech lords, and they are vampires, and there was a whole deal with them a while ago that stopped them from entering this particular part of the world, and that is now threatened by a prophecy, and our main character is not part of the prophecy but her brother might be, even though she's like his stillborn. So there's a whole bunch going on with the leech lords and politics and her trying to get to where she needs to be in order to confront these leech lords. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the journey and how the magic system builds into that, but I'm not in a rush, it feels like, to read it. And I could have read it like 100 pages today just sitting on the couch, but instead I listened to that audiobook, so whoops daisy. But I do plan to read this, so I will hopefully read some more tonight and maybe also tomorrow as well and the weekend. So, you know, I will get it read, but I'm sorry to this book, The Combat Codes, because I haven't touched it. So maybe I need to taste test that one as well, but that's also dangerous because I taste tested the audiobook and I ended up really liking it and then ignoring this. What if I taste test The Combat Codes and then I end up liking it and then ignoring this as well? I can't do that. I need to finish this book. I need to finish it.
It's been a few days, but my plan is to try and finish a book today. It's like 5 o'clock on Saturday. So you can see that I've got my current read here, one I haven't started, and then my option for an audiobook, which I am 75% into for Voyage of the Damned. So I have options, and I'm making a tea, so I'm about to settle in to my lovely comfy chair, hopefully not fall asleep, and enjoy the fire because it's really cold, and if you can hear any background noise, that's just the fan to ventilate out any smoke. I'm gearing up for a very cozy evening.
Guess what? It's the end of this vlog, and I did do some reading in my chair last night and I ended up finishing this book and I gave it a 3 stars, and unfortunately I just found that I was losing interest the more that I read. It started really strong, but then it just kind of faded out for me, and a lot of things felt a little bit convenient, and I think I mentioned that earlier. I think ultimately I lost interest in this one in the way it was showing me the story, because a lot of the ways that we would get the exposition would be in characters having sit down long conversations, and it was just making me lose interest because it consistently kept happening and it was just not engaging. I basically only continued reading it because I wanted to finish it and feel accomplished, so now I have finished it, and this is my 41st or book number 41 that I finished this year. And then after that one I ended up picking up the combat codes, and no, I did not read a whole book in one sitting. This I read 13 pages of, and it was also just not gripping me. It didn't have that spark. It follows Murray though, and he is a long famed Grievar knight, but he's past his prime, and now he goes to fighting contests to pick out new talent. And this book really reminded me of like a meal at a pub. You go there to feel satisfied. Once you have finished your meal, you're like not hungry anymore, and it's not particularly memorable after. And that's just how I felt about this book. I feel like if I stuck to it and read it, it would also be a 3 stars. So it's not necessarily like a book that I was going to hate, because I do like that older mentor character past his prime trope with a younger character that they're training up. And so I like how that younger character just unlocks certain things about our main characters, like past and history and interaction, and how that builds both of them up together. So generally I like what this was setting up, and the premise seemed to be very much on track with that, but I just didn't really care about it enough to continue reading it. So yeah, I gave it 13 pages and I put it down. So this is like my 4th or 5th DNF of June, which is a bit disappointing, but it also kind of makes sense because I was trying to go through as much of my June or my remaining TBR as possible and try and like wipe things off the list. So I think in this case I have very much done that. But I will finish this video on a success because I finished literally just 10 minutes ago, I finished listening to Voyage of the Damned, and I'm going to give this a 4 stars because this gripped me from the very start, and that is because of Ganymedes' tone. And I just loved the way that the mystery played out as well, and I found that the characterization and development of Ganymedes was really believable. He started out not liking himself, and I like how the story progressed that in him starting to accept himself and turn over a new leaf, I guess, as well as trying to solve this murder mystery. And as the bodies kept showing up, I kind of started to pick who it might be, but honestly, that's part of the fun. And I also had just a great time finding out what the ending was. And I find that sometimes with mysteries like this, that you get brought along the whole time and then the reveals aren't as good as you hoped they'd be. But in this case, I really enjoyed the reveals and how they were done, and then what happened in the epilogue after. So that's why I'm sticking with the 4 stars, because it was great. And I love it when a library hold actually surprises me, because it couldn't have been books that I physically bought and own, could it? It had to be a book that I borrowed from my library that I don't own, that I ended up giving 4 stars. But anyway, now that that is all done, you're probably noting that my TBR cart looks rather sparse behind me, and that's because I grabbed this off it, and it's the first 6 weeks, and obviously this is a parenting book, so I thought, oh, maybe I should probably start this given that I'm now 38 or the beginning of 38 weeks pregnant, so baby could literally come anytime from this week or next week or even over. Hopefully not over, hopefully he comes early, but we'll see. And so I'm going to try and read this physically next, and then I'm also listening to the book you wish your parents had read, and I'm listening to this with Dave at the same time when we eat or when we drive somewhere or something like that. So that's a really great book because it's told by I think a psychiatrist, and she's not only telling you anecdotes that relate to different families, she's also discussing how you react to your own parents and psychology, so then that can be applied to kids and how they might accidentally trigger you emotionally and you don't realize because it's based on your past. So it's just about breaking those generational cycles by recognizing them, and I'm finding it really fascinating. We've only just started listening to it, and so I'm hoping that this not necessarily has similar insights, but that it's just a good baby book to read, because you know, nonfiction can be very hit or miss. Like any books, clearly these were just like a bit of a miss for me, so I'm just hoping that I end up actually liking this one and finishing it. So that is it for this reading vlog. That is it for my wrap up of June as well, because tomorrow is the 30th of June. I started this vlog just before the 25th of June, so it's been just about a week, and I feel accomplished. I have a bit of a TBR left, like 4 or 5 books that mostly includes audiobooks, and then the saga reread behind me left for the rest of the year, but honestly, that feels good to me. So I'm really happy with where my unread book pile has landed for this moment in time. But let me know what you're reading or what you've got on your to be read pile, or what an anticipated release will be. I'm looking forward to hearing your recommendations. Hopefully my hiatus doesn't last too long, but we'll see how my filming capability goes. But thank you again so much for watching this video. I'll come chat to you down below, and I will hopefully see you soon. Bye.